Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Amite River Drainage, Basin Drainage and Water Conservation District. Here it's June 11th, 2024 at Ascension Parish Council Chambers. And can I get everyone to stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Jack, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Tony, can we get a roll call?
Buckley?
Present.
Mr. Byrd? Mr. Clark?
Present.
Mr. Quintmall?
Present.
Mr. Weber? Mr. Delat?
Here.
Ms. Polito?
Present.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Parker? Mr. Rayford's absent. Thank you, we have a quorum.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.
Okay, if we have any public comments, we have public comment cards. I think they're in the front when you walk in, and there may be also some by Tony. If you would like, you can fill those out. We're just trying to get a little organization to our public comments. But after every agenda item, we'll open it up for public comments. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Commissioners, have you had a chance to take a look at the minutes? Everything seem in line with our previous meeting? Motion by Commissioner Lott that we approve.
And that's second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bailey. Any opposition? It's adopted. Next item on our agenda is approval of our financial statements ending May 31st, 2024. Everyone had a chance to take a look at that. Mr. Bailey?
I make a motion that we accept the financial statements, approve the financial statements.
Motion by Commissioner Bailey.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Harris. All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passes. Okay, moving right along, we have Amendment 2 for our administrative budget. I don't know, we have anyone here to talk about that?
Tony, explain why she.
Ms. Tony, can you explain that for us just a little bit, just for background?
Yes, our year ends June 30th, and we're going to be having our audit. They require that we don't go over any line item by 10%. And the bottom by 5%. So what we've done, I got with our CPA, and we adjusted the line items that needed to be adjusted. And we've took some from executive director's pay, since we don't have an executive director for about 6 months this year. We put it into consultants because we're going to be hiring a consultant. And that's pretty much it. There's something that had to be done.
The overall number didn't change.
Okay, so did the overall number change?
No, the bottom line stayed the same.
Okay. Do we have any board discussion on this? Any public comments? All right, do we have a motion to accept this Amendment 2?
I make a motion that we accept Amendment 2 of the budget.
Commissioner Bailey, second by Commissioner O'Neill. Any opposition? Okay, motion passes. Okay, next item is report by ARBC President. I would like to, today I thought, kind of switch it up a little bit, and, I'm all about common sense and breaking it down, simplifying things, and DEQ, the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, Mr. John Gross and Amanda, yep, they're right over here, and they have brought a tabletop demonstration. Basically, it's called a streamulator, but they call it Walnut Bayou. primarily because, I used to work at DEQ. And we were doing a lot on hydromodification and understanding how rivers naturally behave. You hear about alluvial, fluvial geomorphology and the Roskin classes, and then there's natural channel design. And basically, the idea is understanding the physics and dynamics of rivers that sometimes you can't put a number to. It just happens. And this is a way to see right in front of your face how things can happen. Things that might take place over 50 years and you realize what you should have, could have, would have done differently. You can see in about 5 minutes with this streamulator. And I think they started out with the streamulator doing, I don't know, John, can you explain a little bit?
Sure. Thank you for that introduction, Mr. John. As he said, my name's John, and this is Amanda. We work with DEQ. And like Mr. John mentioned, this is our model we call Walnut Bayou. And it's actually been at DEQ much longer than either of us two have been there. But it's a good model to show how streams move and change over time. Normally that time frame, we're talking a geologic time frame of hundreds to thousands of years, and this model shows it in a few minutes. So what we'll do is we'll get it set up in a nice, easy display with a nice straight channel that we might think is a good modification for a stream. And we'll put some houses along it and set it up as if we wanted to change the stream to be a simple straight channel. We'll kind of let the model run, and then maybe after the meeting, we can see how it looks after it's been running for a few minutes. But as John had mentioned, some words such as fluvial geomorphology and stream movements, what exactly does that mean? Fluvial geomorphology is the study of how streams flow and how sediment flows. And when we talk about streams, they're always moving towards what we call energy equilibrium. Now, what does that mean? Energy equilibrium, we can talk about two different energy forces, erosion and sedimentation. Erosion is taking sediment away. Sedimentation is placing that sediment down. And streams are always moving towards equilibrium of those two forces. And what that ultimately means is that a straight channel does not want to stay straight. A straight channel will move and change over time. So as we get this set up, we'll get it nice and straight, and then towards the end of the meeting, we can take a chance and y'all can come up here and see how it looks after it's changed.
Thank you, John. So back in, like I say, my former occupation, working with the state, we were looking at this and we thought it was great. And we wanted to understand what's going on. And we learn about the word of the day. I want to throw this at y'all, is sinuosity is the word of the day. But we're also, I was involved with the creation. Me and a guy, we actually built this streamulator model. And it's really served a good purpose. But we'll do some other simulations. The basic one is a straight channel, but we'll also do some dredging. We're going to act like this is the Amite River. We'll do some dredging in the lower Amite. We'll make some meanders and some reservoirs up top, and we'll even create a diversion, and we'll put some houses along there, and we'll see what happens right in front of your eyes. You'll be able to see head cutting, another thing, and we'll go from there. We might even put a levee up. And see what happens. Anyway, thank you. Anyway, moving on the agenda. Next item is our report by our ARBC legal counsel, Mr. Larry Bankston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Previously, we had gone over those items that were in HB 2, which is the capital outlay bill. And that's a long process. Lots of times things that are previously in capital outlay get moved around, priorities change and whatever. but everything that we had previously in capital outlay remained the same. And those particular items, I can kind of go over those. One of the items is the Comite Diversion Canal planning and right-of-way utility construction. This involves the continuation of the Comite Diversion Canal. This is $652,703, which is in priority one, which is continuation that doesn't come to the commission. It goes to the DOTD in reference to the work that it's continuing to do. The next item is flood control reservoir in the Amite River Basin watershed. This is $2.1 million. It's payable by general fund obligations, priority 5, which has the possibility of being used, and this is available. The next item, which does not go to the commission, but it will have a substantial effect. It goes actually to East Baton Rouge Parish, the East Baton Rouge Parish Flood Reduction Project, which expands, repairs, and modifies drainage throughout the parish. This has $27.9 million in priority 1 and $7 million in priority 2 for a total of nearly $35 million. The other item that goes directly, involves the commission, is the Upper Amite Flood Risk Reduction and Restoration Planning and Construction. This has a payable from general obligation bonds in priority 5, $65 million, and also payable from state general fund direct non-recurring is $2 million. So each of those items, which I previously reported to you, were in HB 1. They are all in the enrolled bill. The governor has still not gone through this, so this is not final, but assuming that no changes or the governor makes no changes in reference to that, those are items that have significant benefit for the area. The next item that I do want, because several board members have requested information about, they saw in the paper that one of the items in the legislature was an efforts to have the governor make appointments of the chairman or the presiding officer for various boards and commissions, and that bill did pass. The way the bill is set up, in order for it to apply to a specific board or commission, the governor must, a majority of the members of the board have to be gubernatorial appointments. In our particular case, that the governor he appoints 6 members, and we have 7 members by fact of the position of parish presidents. So this particular bill does not apply to the Amite River Basin Commission as presently set up. So the bill has, I think, probably as many as 100 boards and commissions would give the authority for the governor to make the appointment of the chairman, but it does not apply in this particular case. We had a couple of board members that asked me about this because it was in the news. So I'll be glad to try to answer any questions about capital outlay or this recent legislation. I'm sure there's going to be more legislation that's going to be applicable, certain changes, but we still haven't seen everything that's going to be signed by the governor or that will go into effect. We'll wait to see, particularly in reference to open meetings as well as certain aspects of production of documents. So be glad to answer any questions any of the board members may have.
Any questions? Commissioner Harris.
Larry, on the capital outlay, were all of those P5? I didn't.
No, no, some, the one involving the 2.1 million is priority 5.
Which title is that?
That's flood control reservoirs in the Amite watershed. And then the other item, which is East Baton Rouge Parish, had some priority 1, some priority 5, And the one that involves directly to the commission is 65 million priority 5, and then 2 million payable from state general fund non-recurring revenues. So that was a total of $67 million, but only 2 million of it is coming from non-recurring, what they call non-recurring payables from the state general fund. So all of the ones that I previously gave you copies of, everything stayed exactly the same.
Okay. What does that mean on the 2 million? Is a check in the mail on that? Or?
Not, we have Representative Bacala here, he might be able to tell us whether the check's in the mail. Also, he's.
Yes, please.
I didn't know I was gonna be answering questions. The check is not in the mail until you have a need for it, basically. I mean, so if you come back and you say, you know, if it's applicable to engineering, you can draw it down for the engineering purposes. Obviously, nobody, we talk about the P5, 65 million. You're not ready to spend it, right? So when it's time, what you start expending money, it kind of ensures that the project just doesn't go away. You've started to expend money, so that 65, nothing's absolute, but it's sort of locked down at that point in time. So the bottom line is start, that project, you need to start pursuing it to the tune of the 2 million. You can get with the state treasury. They can provide you with information about how to do that. Some of you guys probably already know how, having done other projects. So if that answers the questions, or if you have other questions, I'll do my best.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I may have another question. I don't know if it pertains or not. I wasn't quite clear on the $2 million. Yes, that's what we would start spending for what projects or what in Amite River Basin?
Larry?
It's specifically for the upper Amite flood risk reduction and restoration planning and construction. So what the representative was talking about is initially what you can do is that $2 million, that's non-recurring, that money is there.
Well, the non-recurring, just to clarify that, non-recurring means it's not.
One time, huh?
In the non-recurring world, it means we're giving you 2 million or 2.1 million of cash that is surplus money from the previous years or excess money. The non-recurring is more of a state term. We try not to, we do a pretty good job not having recurring expenses rely on non-recurring dollars. So not using savings account to pay ongoing obligations. So you don't give your employees a raise and pay it out of your savings account because someday it's dry. So this non-recurring means it's the source of the state money, not so much going forward that you won't get it again, but we won't have it again to give it to you out of our recurring expenses.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, what I'm asking is the definition of that $2 million then. I know not the
Like-
non-recurring, I'm not,
Project description?
yes.
It would be for the initial engineering and design aspect of the upper Amite River Risk Reduction Restoration Plan.
Okay,
That's what I
so,
needed, yeah.
so Commissioner Delott, back in the day, I think last year, we got together with former Executive Director Rachel. You know, one of the big elephants in the upper Amite, besides Darlington Reservoir, is the abandoned sand and gravel mines that, the meanders that have been lost, 7 miles of river, the gravel pits that look like a lunar landscape, perhaps repurposing those to help with flood, reduce peak flows,
I'm
and,
clear. I know what we're talking about.
but in this case, do a pilot project until a larger, more comprehensive plan for that area is put in place, that we could actually do some case and point scenarios, and when the time gets right, we'll know what works and what doesn't work.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Commissioner O'Neill?
I just want to ask, and this may be something direct to the representative, if you appreciate your time, appreciate the information. So is it safe to say that we're able to go ahead and potentially draw up a scope of work for professional services relating to engineering and design on the pilot project?
I think the gist of the pilot project was to purchase the property,
Just a purchase, okay.
to have a site that ARBC has to start implementing some of these practices, demonstrations that works or not work, restoration, retention, revegetation, such as that, remeander.
The selection of a site has to be engineered.
Of course, yes.
And so, yes, the answer to your question is yes.
And so a follow-up question for John. Do we need to make a motion to begin to initiate a site selection process and a scoping of the potential pilot project for ARVC?
I suggest we turn that over to the project committee and let them go ahead and get started. There's a number of things, when we first looked at this overall project, as it being a pilot, what we're looking at long-term is to have a number of these, and I think Dewberry's already looked at some of that. So we already have some preliminary data to go off of. But there's other sources other than from the state that we know that we can get money as far as green space and restoration of, like John said, this lunar landscape up there. So it's time to start actually, now that we've got some seed money, go ahead and get started with that and start looking for the actual site, because there's also an economic development benefit from the landowner. So we're gonna have to acquire land somewhere, and this could be, depending on who owns the land and what they're gonna use it for and what it would develop that area, will depend on what we're gonna have to put, excuse me, what we'd have to pay. So now that we've got the seed money, it's time to go ahead and get started with all those aspects.
One thing I would just caution you guys about with it, first of all, it hadn't been signed, but you'd have to make sure on this. I'm more familiar with HB1 money than I am with HB2. This is sort of written like an HB1 project as far as the non-recurring state dollars. Most of the time you have to, if you don't spend those by the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2025, they revert back to surplus. So you just know that you don't have that money for the next 10 years. It could go away if you don't actually use it. And you may know that. I just wanted to throw that out.
Any more discussion?
So we need to take no action today on the $2 million.
Don't have to, you can,
But I will say, June 30th, 2025, we got to have
comes
it
quick,
spent.
comes quick.
So,
Yeah, so.
Well, spent or
like Commissioner-
obligated.
what's that?
It could be obligated as well as spent. I mean, if you have a bona fide obligation
contract.
on the money, yes.
Encumbered.
So as long as we have a contract to do some type of work by June 30th, 2025. we
Make
stay in
sure
good
with that,
basis.
all that is subject to the treasurer's approval. That's the entity that ultimately controls the money once it goes there. But there are some, I just want to throw out the broad parameters, but still any project that has to match up with the line item appropriation of that money through HB2, and the treasurer's responsibility is to make sure that it lines up.
Appreciate it again. Thank
Any
you.
more discussion? All right, look, on behalf of the parishes and the commission, I'm not going to speak for them, but I'm going to stick it out there that we would like to thank Representative Bacala for helping us shepherd this bill, this capital outlay request, in light of our needs here at the ARBC and what we're trying to do, not just react, but be proactive. Thank you, sir. Okay. Okay, next item is, we're looking at old business, under old business on our agenda. And we have a report, presentation by Dewberry, who is the contractor that has been selected to do our master plan for the Amite River Basin Drainage and Conservation District. Mr. Sandcampton.
Right, thank you. Right, so as you recall from the last meeting, we got the contract and negotiated the contract and got that executed. And so the first few weeks was certainly a lot of administrative work on my part, getting all our subcontractors underway. So we received that formal notice to proceed on 5/15, and we had all our ducks in a row and really hit the ground running. And so since then, we've had extensive team coordination. We've got all them subcontractors underway and numerous internal subtask kickoffs to get individual tasks such as some of the flood risk assessment, survey, and other tasks underway. So one of the big items that we've provided last week, or actually on Monday, I provided the outreach and engagement plan. And so this is the first draft, which really outlines some of the meetings, how we want to communicate, and working with you guys to get the messages and that approved and vetted before we issue them. And so I know we've received a couple of comments on this already, so please share any comments you have on the plan and we can address them and get them back to you. And then I think the next key thing on there is going to be to actually identify some dates and locations to have some of these meetings. And so some of the key things with this is really with the public engagement. We want to ensure the master plan is community driven so that we get sort of buy-in and adoption and gaining that stakeholder input from the public as well as communities. So with some of the meetings, we've proposed various meetings, and so we've got one here we're referring to as a project delivery team, and so really looking for some guidance from you guys how you're going to form this, whether you're going to have a master plan committee that we can work with, but we've certainly got a lot of things we're going to want to bounce off you frequently to get your input and ensure we're meeting your needs. And then monthly, as we're doing right now, is board briefings, and then elected officials coordination as needed. So per your requirements, we're planning on the three regions for the meetings, and we'll certainly be working with you guys to identify where they are going to be. And so we're planning on 2 public meetings in each region. So the first meeting is really going to be focused on gaining stakeholder input on the plan, how they would like to see it done, what ideas they have, both from the communities and from the general public. And then at the end, we're proposing to have another public meeting where we're really rolling out the plan and answering any questions that there may be. And there's many different communication methods. I know we spoke with your former director before she left and on some of this, and I know you have accounts already for some social media and the website, and so we will develop a bunch of material that we can then share with you to post on these various communication methods. And so next step, as mentioned, just to have you review and comment on the plan and define the approval process for material. And we're going to work on defining a stakeholder list so that we can engage directly with the interest groups and communities and plan them first 3 public meetings as soon as possible. So as we presented previously, we have a plan in place. We've got various members of our team that are designated as the key points of contacts for various parishes, but obviously feel free to reach out to any of us. But we have provided them contacts in the draft plan. So one of the big things I wanted to get done up front, because obviously this time frame is very compressed, it's going to be very challenging, but it can be done. We're not going to have time really to backtrack and redo things, so I want to try and get everything sort of ironed out up front. And so one of the things we provided late last week was what we're referring to as a style set / branding. And what we're really doing here is we want to get consistency. We've got several different consultants on our team. We want to make sure everything looks and feels the same, and branding it as the Amite River Basin Commission rather than as consultants. And so we've developed 2 style sets here. The first one is an 11x17 document, and so we're trying to get all branded as consistent styles, and this will really be the main document where we've got technical appendices that will roll up into this. And so this will be sort of a high level, easy to read, very graphical, with like infographics to really illustrate the plan. And then that's going to be supported by numerous appendices that are going to have the real sort of nuts and bolts of it in there, the real technical details, and certainly going to be heavier reading, but it's essential data that you're going to want to preserve and have as backup. We provide that to you. This next slide is just an example of some of the fonts and color schemes and that which we've based from your website and previous documents. And so we're really just open for any input you have, any suggestions. One thing we are planning on doing that is not in here yet is on the main master plan, just consistent with the way that the CPRA master plan has done before. We're going to have the tabs along the side as chapter markers, so it's very easy to look up the table of contents and browse to individual chapters. And so that will be in the next iteration, and we're going to incorporate any comments that you'd like to provide. So an update on the data collection, and actually with the theme of sinuosity, that's one I didn't actually put a slide in here, but I'm glad you mentioned that because this time of year it's intern season, and so we got several interns in our group at the moment, and one of the things I've had them doing is looking at the historical imagery and digitizing the streamlines, and so we can really see how that sinuosity has changed within the river, and it's quite drastic. And I've been doing a lot of reading, and it looks like the river's probably shortened by about 6 miles since the 50s. So we've got all them streamlines now digitized from various sources, going back, I think, around the 50s for the USGS quads, which we validated with historic aerials, and everything through, we've been using Google Earth a lot to pull up all the different years of aerial imagery. And so we have all of them streamlines now that we can look to really see the patterns. So some of the key data, there's been some really good data that's come up, and I've got to give a lot of credit to Bob Jacobson, who reached out and shared some information that was not available online anywhere. One of the key ones I just wanted to highlight is there was a 2010 study that was performed by Tony Thomas, which some of you may know of Tony Thomas. He was claimed to be the first person to ever build a computer model for the Corps of Engineers, and then really went into the sediment transport, and he's the ultimate expert. He's retired now, but he did this report, and we've got the digital report. We're trying to get hold of the digital models that went behind this. If anybody has any leads, either from the board or in the audience, any leads on getting them digital models, that would be some really good information that we can pull if we can obtain that. It's a Hex 6 model, and I do have some contacts for Tony. I'm going to reach out and see if he is able to provide that data. And so we've also got survey from the Corps of Engineers and DOTD. This we've now digitized that, and so we've got them locations, and we're pulling through the survey notebooks, and so there's some good stuff there. And then also beginning the direct engagements with the communities. So projects is one big thing. We'd love to hear from you on your projects. I know we have a lot of that information already, but if there's any other new projects, we'd like to get that in the list and start looking. And then with the CRS, we're really trying to align the master plan with CRS activities. So we've done an initial screening. We've got all the communities listed and figured out their current status. Now we're working on getting their reports so we can see where there's additional points for CRS that the master plan can help improve, and so they can ultimately reduce flood insurance cost for the residents. Then also we're beginning the code and ordinance review there. Survey collection, so the multi-beam survey of the diversion weir is going to begin next week. That has been set back a little bit. The boat that was planning on using for that was working on the Red River and had a unfortunate prop and piece of wood incident, so that's just undergoing some repairs, but that's going to be out next week. So it's only a week late, but this isn't a critical path on the schedule, so I don't foresee that being any problem. So a lot of the historical survey, as I mentioned, has now been georeferenced, and now we're just scoping out where we're going to be sending the surveyors to collect this data. One thing, we're just looking for some further data. If anyone has any access to any original survey of the Amite or plans for the Amite diversion canal, we've got some information, but I'm sure there's a lot more out there. So we're trying to get that specifically. If there's any like typical cross sections and survey of the river, we've got some of that, mainly profiles. But if there's anything else that anyone is aware of, that would be great information to get hold of. So the LWI modeling, that is a parallel task that really is going to be able to drive a lot of the information here. So we do have parallel, we're working on the stuff for LWI. And so we got notice to proceed on that a little earlier than we thought. And so that data is really going to be very useful for this project. And so at the moment, we're putting in various historical, we've got historic floods in there now. We're putting in like the 10, 50, 100-year flood in a lot higher detail, particularly in the tributaries than the original models there. One thing we're doing there is a regional analysis of all the USGS data out there and some of the coastal data. And so that's really going to help drive us and inform us what the historical elevations were to ensure that everything is coming out correct. And then also we're going to be doing the demonstration projects, which we'll be able to roll up into the plan as well. And so there's going to be some interesting stuff there. And then also, as I believe I probably mentioned last time, through LWI, there is going to be some capacity building / training later on the year specific to individual models. So there will be some sessions specifically training on use of the model for stakeholders. So one of the big models that's going on is the economic model. So this is really going to be able to quantify the economic benefits of individual projects. So that is well underway, and there is a data set that the state's collected that is validating. We're currently validating it. It's where AI was used to derive the finished floor elevations of structures throughout the whole state. And so we've put requests out already to various parishes. We've received some information already. If anyone has any digital elevation certificates that they can share for their parish, that would be really good just to use to validate that the AI-derived finished floor elevations are correct, because we've literally got hundreds of thousands of structures and throughout that, well, that's throughout the whole of Region 7, but with it, we're certainly in tens of thousands of structures within the basin, and any elevation certificates you may have would be great just to validate this automated data set. And so the models there are on schedule. We've actually got one of them up and running with the new data set, so we're doing good there. So that's going to be ready to assess actual project performance. Mitigation banking. So ELOS, our sub, has been running with this. And we've identified the parcels along the Comite Diversion Canal that the Commission has purchased. And so currently we've shared the state LiDAR with them, and they're reviewing that and initiated the GIS mapping and using the remote sensing to analyze the parcels that the Commission owns, and establishing a relative baseline for the ecological health, and then going to be taking that further to assess the feasibility. And we do have Kareem here who will be happy to answer any questions on the mitigation banking task. And then also related with the conservation, we've also got a good head start on that. We've got a lot of good data, particularly from EBR, on some of the potential areas for conservation to sort of align with their master plan. So schedule update. So far everything's going good on schedule. We modified the schedule based on feedback at the last minute. We presented two options, and the final option was a blend of the two, whereby we plan to deliver an interim report for the board review in December, and then the final report addressing all the comments and feedback will be prepared in time for the start of the 2025 legislative session. And what we proposed in there was rolling out the final stakeholder engagement after that's delivered to the legislators. So we got the initial meetings that we look to do in the imminent future, where we're going to be gaining stakeholder input, and then the final meeting will be rolling out the plan, answering questions. So that will be done after that's delivered. But obviously, if you wanted to change that and have it earlier, we're more than happy to do that. So some of the expected milestones for the next meeting. I'm actually going to personally be on vacation next meeting, so we'll have John Monzon, my deputy PM, and some of the other team members will be here to fill in. So some of the key milestones. So by this time next month, we should have the data collection largely complete from the communities and agencies. And a survey of the weir, that's scheduled to start on Monday. And so we should have them scanned to the weir, and we'll be able to get a good assessment of the structural condition there. And then we're also going to be developing an initial project list. One thing we want to recommend is coordinating and having a scoping charrette where we literally get input on potential projects. I know we've discussed various projects with some of you individually. But we've got some new projects, we've got some that are underway, and some new concepts that we want to look at as well. And then also, by next month, we should have a good update on the stakeholder engagement and initial meetings scheduled. And so we're currently refining that list of stakeholders, partners, and officials that will all be part of the email distribution list, and we'll be emailing you with that information as we update that. So with that, that's the end of the presentation. We're more than happy to, between myself or any of our subs, answer any questions you may have at this point.
Any questions? Commissioner O'Neill.
I know you're shocked, President Clark, and I got some questions. So number one, for projects, for CRS coordination, for codes and ordinances, have y'all done that outreach yet with the parishes and the stakeholders and the communities, or that's going to be, I think you said at the end of the slide that that's going to be done in time, or you'll have some
Yep,
sort of schedule set up for the July meeting?
That's underway, reaching out to the communities. So first thing we've done is catalogued every community, parish and community within, and research the current status, and now we're digging deeper to look at, to request the information, to look at what points are on each activity.
So for Randy, for Clint, and the other parish representatives here, you have a slide up there where, for example, Chad Bacchus is going to be East Feliciana,
Yep.
St. Helena, and Livingston. Is that going to come through Chad? He's going to be coordinating with the parish, saying, hey, we're out doing outreach. In other words, should Randy and Clint or whomever their contact is say, be expecting outreach from this person to ask these questions for this data?
Yeah, they'll be the primary point of contact now. I know certainly with Chad, Morgan Sanchez is working with him as well, and she's going to be doing a lot of that. So it could be either of them.
So just for the parishes to maybe let their communities know that there's going to be outreach occurring,
Yep.
and that these are going to be the people or the points of contact that.
Yep, definitely expect the calls.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. It's going. I think you guys are going to be doing that over the next month. Is basically what's going to happen. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep.
'Cause
Some
you'll
of
have
it
the
may have
schedule
happened
finalized for
already.
July. Okay. And then historical survey information. Who have you reached out to at the parish level to get that historical data?
So that's underway. The biggest ones right now for the historical data has been through the Corps of Engineers and DOTD. The team's currently reaching out to communities individually, but so far the DOTD and the Corps of Engineers has been the big one. And then, as I mentioned, with Bob Jacobson was really helpful digging out some information from PLD. And there is some more data there we would like to get, and I'm trying to get my hands on it because that really, I had the report here, that was really a game changer finding this report that was done in 2010. There was no trace of it online, but it's excellent data. So hopefully we can trace down some of the digital files that support that, and I think we're going to be able to do things to a much higher level.
And so, regarding projects, again, the same parish contacts are going to be the ones that are reaching out to the parish presidents to say, what projects do you want included in this? What projects do you want reviewed in this? Y'all
Yep.
be reaching out directly to the parishes for that.
Yes, they will be reaching
And
out
so the
directly.
parishes need to, if at all possible, be proactive with you guys to have sort of a list of projects they may want considered in this process.
Yeah, definitely. That would be good. And we'd like to bounce it off you whether you would like to have like a project scope and charrette where we can sit down and look at the models, look at the results, and discuss various projects, because there is a certain number of projects with scope to investigate on top of the ones that are already being done.
It's a question for y'all, really.
Any more questions? Okay. Yes, public comment question. Ms. Cindy.
I was wondering if y'all saw the email I sent yesterday about the engagement plan. They were proposing doing just a general overview and then having these on-site rolling presentations throughout the whole thing. And my opinion was, and I would like to get your opinion, would it be better to have a presentation just in front of all of the public so they can get a more hands-on and feel more comfortable maybe with the consultant, and maybe we could build a better relationship and get more input?
Yes, ma'am. That's a great idea. It's nothing better than in person. And I forwarded that to Sam and the board members. So hopefully, and one suggestion I would make too is a lot of, on a parish level, which is your local stakeholders. Everybody gets together when they have an official council meeting. Some way, somehow getting on perhaps the agenda, or someone do that, to have a presence and solicit beforehand on what the nature of the, what it's going to be, is soliciting ideas. I'm just thinking for Iberville, you know, it would be East Iberville, so, you know, St. Gabriel area, Spanish Lake area, you know, so forth, and that's in every parish. But at the council meeting, that's usually where the deal goes down.
Yeah, that sounds good, and we can certainly accommodate that. And some of the things we was looking at doing is we will do poster boards, and so we can have some maps up to show the areas, and we can use like push pins and that to mark concerns and gain input. So there's various different methods there that we was planning, and then also we'll have computer stations. We have 2 or 3 staff there that can pull things up live. Certainly bring up some of the models if people have questions about areas. I know with all the animations you can do now, things look real, and it really does make it a lot easier to connect with the general public and explain what's going on and get their input.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Any public comments on that, our master plan? Looks like we're moving right along. The stakeholder engagement, outreach, gathering public information on what they feel may need to go into our master plan. Yeah, Commissioner DeLotte.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. I have a comment on that. Basically, I agreed with the public comment by Ms. Cindy. I'd like to go on record and ask that they contact the parish of Livingston to have some sort of town hall meeting in the conference chambers room, council chambers room, where we can discuss this with the public. If we do it during a meeting, I think the council's going to rush through it because they got so much business on their agenda.
That's a good point.
I like to do it just specifically for what the proposals are going to be. And I think, as Ms. Cindy stated, you get more feedback and more, when you invite the public in, and this includes municipalities, when you invite everybody in and say, here's our plan, and we need some input, I think we get more input by inviting them. Thank you.
Good comment. Any more comments? Discussion?
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all for coming and presenting and giving us an update very much. I'd like to kind of pause just for a minute to check with the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality to see how our river model's going, or is the channel stabilized yet?
It's stabilizing. It's looking good though. If we want to take an opportunity for people to come up and check it out.
I see where you've put some hydro modification or stream bank armory there, and what that's doing to the channel.
The camera is nice. Got to figure out which one is it. Okay.
We're in Ascension Parish. Keep in mind,
Yeah.
they got it going on.
So through here, we did have a nice straight channel, and as you can see, it's straight in some areas, but word of the day, sinuosity. Down towards the end here, we see a nice curved path the stream has took, and that's what we refer to as sinuosity in the stream. Now, it's important to point out that streams can have straight sections. That's certainly a feature of streams. Sometimes the problem is we tend to want streams to be straight where they're not meant to be straight. And then we start putting houses in sections where we've straightened streams, and erosion cause issues where houses can start to fall in. We might have cow pastures in areas where we've straightened a stream, and then that landowner loses some of their pasture land to erosion, or we put nice camps on prime ridge real estate towards the end here, and that ends up falling in the river. But as you can see, the channel has changed quite a bit, and we can do some more demonstrations now, or we can wait till after the meeting as far as some of the...
We'll do some after the meeting, and
Okay.
and believe me, I want to get my hands wet, so I'm gonna go through some simulations real quick.
Perfect.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Amanda. All right, moving right along. Next item, under old business, is our professional services contract for an interim coordinator for the Amite River Basin Commission. Since we've lost our executive director, we're at a point right now where the last thing we need to happen is something to fall between the cracks. We've said all along that the expectations are very high, from the public. They want to see something done since 2016 and 83 and many times before. So the last thing we need to do is fall behind on something. And when we don't have anyone, a lot of us have to step up and do that outside of our regular job. So this is what this item on the agenda is about. And do we have any discussion among the commission right now? Commissioner Quintmont.
Yes. All right, good, perfect. So, just going to give my opinion, whatever that's worth. Not much these days, it doesn't seem. So, in reviewing this, I just want to make sure that the public understands and everyone understands. So there's a short-term need and a versus a long-term need. And so what we're looking at today is that short-term need of having some individuals come in, company-based, obviously, to help with some of the internal duties that the executive director would have performed. So with that being said, in reviewing all of the applicants, the Water Institute with Garvin Pittman, obviously he was an applicant and a finalist for the executive director position. And so I feel that that would be somewhat beneficial to this organization in the process of having the Water Institute and Garvin Pittman come in and perform a lot of these duties that would normally be performed by our executive director. With that being said, one of those duties is to establish a RFQ and RFP, whichever one we decide to do, for a long-term company to come in and do other tasks that is needed. I have always felt and have commented in the past that I thought that a company needed to be involved at some level, even with an executive director, because there's duties and things when you're talking about getting into permits and grants and a lot of those things that both are needed. And so but for the short-term need, I'm in favor of the Water Institute and Garvin Pittman coming in to assist this organization and catching back up and getting to where we need to do on a daily basis of performing those tasks that an executive director or a watershed coordinator, however we want to plan the terms, would be beneficial. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Neill,
You can hear me now, but
there you go.
I just wanted to kind of educate the public. We received 3 different quotes. We followed state bid law. We followed everything to the letter of the law in terms of obtaining quotes for these services. And to any firms that are out there, whomever is selected as a part of this process, the ARBC will internally issue an RFQ or RFP. It won't be part of the services that this individual is, or this firm is being required to perform. And so you will not be precluded from pursuing, or other firms will not be precluded from pursuing that work downstream when we issue either that RFQ or that RFP that Commissioner Coitma is talking about. So just wanted to maybe educate the public on the process we took and that it was by the book and to the letter of the law. We're crossing our T's and dotting our I's because we got to make sure this funding stays in a lane that allows us to be reimbursed through LWI and OCD funding, which is part of their action plan. So as far as my personal opinion on the matter, reviewing everybody, there were 3 different respondents, which was the minimum for the requirements legally. I share Commissioner Coitma's appreciation for the Water Institute, for Mr. Pittman especially. As you know, Commissioner Coitma stated, he was a finalist for our executive director position, and we'd appreciate his involvement. Personally, I would. Definitely appreciate everybody's response, but my 2 cents would be with the Water Institute as far as that selection is concerned.
Commissioner O'Neill, can you tell us the other 2 applicants?
Oh, yes, sir. So the three applicants total were, I believe, CSRS was the first applicant that responded. The second applicant was the Water Institute. The third one was Half Incorporated. It used to be Half and Associates. They're Half Incorporated now. So each of them responded individually as a sole. None of them teamed together. It was just the firms individually. So.
Okay, any more board discussion or comments?
Clinton, will make a motion? You want me to?
Any public comments on this? Okay. Mr. Larry, this is an action item. Yes. Yep.
I'll make a motion. Accept the Water Institute.
I would second that motion based on the information in which you got to discuss, is particularly that the other companies will not be precluded from bidding on long-term projects. I would recommend the Water Institute as well.
Okay, I got a motion by Commissioner Quintmall and a second by Commissioner Bailey. Is there any discussion on this? No discussion? Any opposition? Do we want to take a roll? Let's, yeah, and let's take a roll call. Tony, please.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd? Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Quintmall?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
No.
Mr. Weber's absent. Ms. Felito?
Abstain.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Parker's absent. Mr. Rayford's absent. All right, thank you. We have
Okay.
4
Motion
yes
passes.
and 2, we have 6 yes, 1 abstain.
Okay, motion passed. Larry?
Just also in your packet, there is a draft contract for professional services that includes the scope. What I did is I took the scope of work from the, what was sent out, dropped it in, put a limitation on the amount of the overall, so to keep us in compliance with that, I would ask the board to consider approving this contract so that we don't have any further delay in getting these people involved. I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Question/comment is, the rates are left blank in the contract. We're assuming the rates in each of the proposals are the rates that will be then applied in there. So the rates for the Water Institute from their page will be put in there. And I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that, they weren't left blank purposely, that they're in the actual proposals. And if you want to validate that, that would be great.
Correct. Mr. Chairman, what I did is, not knowing who would be selected, I left those blanks, and those would just be filled in appropriately. But I was looking to hopefully have this contract approved so I can get with whoever was the successful bidder and get this done. I would ask for a motion to approve the contract for professional services once filled in with the appropriate dollar amounts.
Okay, we got a request for a motion.
I'll second.
Commissioner O'Neill and seconded by Commissioner Quintmall. Any opposition? Okay, motion passes. All right.
Let me deal with that one. Next one. Amendment number 1.
Yeah, you can, and I'm gonna throw my little 2 cents in.
Go ahead.
Okay, next item on our agenda is, it's amendment number 1. It's our intergovernmental agreement with CPRA. And, every time we turn around, we're having to do an amendment, and then when we do an amendment, we have to deal with not the CPRA. we have to deal a lot of times with the OCD, Office of Community Development, and the Department of Administration. And just want to say there's a lot of back and forth, and a lot of time that passes, whether you can sign it this way or sign it that way, or you can't scan it, you got to wet ink it, or if you electronic it, you can't, and it's a lot of back and forth. Seems like business as usual, but unusual for business. But anyway, Mr. Larry, can you explain a little more?
With our agreement with, intergovernmental agreement with CPRA, there is a fixed amount of money, and their request is simply to say those funds that have been spent during the fiscal year be acknowledged. And this is being done at the request of the financial department or division of CPRA to hopefully just do this once a year of what funds have been expended on behalf of ARBC at our direction. We direct CPR to do certain things. For example, the previous funds that have been expended by CPRA was to contract to do the initial boundary agreement, which that piece of legislation did pass without any opposition. This would be simply an acknowledgement. Last meeting, if you recall, we weren't sure whether or not we would have to do this each time that CPRA expended money, but after discussions with CPRA, they were only looking that this be done every fiscal year. And because we're coming to the end of the fiscal year, that is why we're needing to execute this. And I would recommend that we do this after any public comment. Gary had a question.
Commissioner O'Neill. Okay, got a motion by Commissioner O'Neill to adopt amendment number 1. Second by Commissioner Quintmont. Any opposition? Okay, motion passes. Next item is it's our LWI Region 9 Coordinator updates. We submitted a draw for the work that we've been doing for under our RCBG Regional Capacity Building Grant, and I think there was some discrepancy in the total, and we got that correct, and hopefully that money will be deposited in our account that we can reimburse the account that we have been using this money from. So that's a good thing, and we're working on our accountability for the things that we're doing in-house currently. Primarily right now, it's Mr. Larry Bankston, our counsel, and Ms. Tony Guitro, our executive secretary, who is, carrying the load of this work. I help assist, we all help assist, but it's my understanding that we can't, our time is not quantified for being reimbursed. So once we get our interim contractor in place, then hopefully that money will become part of this. So other than that, we're working on, the project committee is looking at our, for Region 9, the $100 million for the large transformative projects and kind of deciding what we're going to do. And, it's our next item on here that we're going to talk about that pertains to that is the Bayou Manchac project update. I think in Region 9, a lot of the applicants that proposed projects under Round 2, you should be having your kickoff meetings. And I know I was in East Feliciana yesterday morning, working with those guys to help make sure that the project that they submitted and proposed doesn't fall between the cracks, because there's been some turnover in their administration, and they have a new administration, and some things have changed, and OCD saying one thing, and LWI saying one thing, and it's some confusion. So being the fact that we've been around since the beginning, when all of this as a steering committee for Region 9, the ARBC, we know what has happened and what has transpired. So we just kind of went up there yesterday to help get them back on track. And I think we're moving forward there. But if there any of the other parishes has any updates that they might be willing to share us here today in regards to Region 9's, your projects that you submitted? Commissioner Quintmore.
Yeah, so we have two in round two that are moving along. I think we share just some of the regular frustrations with the permitting process and some of the federal guidelines. This is not unusual for these type of grants, but it's just, it's a little frustrating, but we're working through it, and we're working with OCD to handle all those things. It's a lot when you start one of these processes, and the permit process seems to change from time to time, and it's just difficult, but it's just a long process to work through, but we're getting through it and moving along. So we're excited about the projects when we actually can get to them, but just takes time. And so we're working through those issues. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Neill.
Just quick update for Livingston Parish. Quick update for Livingston Parish. I think the City of Walker City Council meeting is tonight to award professional services for administration of the grant and for professional services for design on the grant for Taylor Bayou, which is an LWI Round 2 project. So I think they've already had their kickoff meeting with LWI, but I think they're actually going to take steps to award contract administration and A&D work for that. So moving right along there. I think everybody echoes Clint's frustration, or the parish's frustration, with the pace of federal money. It's federal money, slow money. So we'd love to get it to speed up, but it is what it is. So.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone, in regards to Region 9 watershed coordinators coordination, is that all the project applicants, just a reminder, you need to obligate those funds, have something in place by August, or you lose it. So this is moving at a fast pace. And from, in talking to the Watershed Initiative, OCD, that program, it seems like they've obligated on the books all the money. So maybe the administrative money might be running out, and whatever falls through the cracks, they might scoop it up. So just a reminder. Ms. O'Neill, please.
I know you haven't been acting in the capacity of the regional coordinator for very long, but I would like to ask, in your part that you have been participating in, have you heard anything from the other regions about what they're doing, or anything innovative that they may be doing that we haven't thought of, or how are they using their capacity building grant money and things of that nature?
Yes, Iberville is uniquely positioned geographically, geologically, in 3 different Louisiana watershed regions. So I sit on 3 different regional steering committees. Region 6 is, it's straightforward with, they have a watershed coordinator, and they have their meetings and just kind of the minimal things. There's nothing really innovative. There may be some certified floodplain managers conferences that's suggested to go to. Now, Region 5, which is Acadiana, on the other hand, is very proactive, and it seems they're never ending on what they're coming up with to get their region to do and try to provide their educate their public officials and so forth. I know DEQ, TMDL program with Chuck Berger is going to be doing a demonstration for them and hands-on. They're constantly having, and the workshop's going to be about natural channel design, of all things. which is, kind of goes in line with what our streamulator model is about. So yes, but for us, we're in the absence of someone to really focus on that, we're just kind of winging it and checking the boxes. But we're not going to drop the ball in the meantime. And we're going to work together as a team to help our people that may not have the resources make sure that their projects continue to go forward. And if they need technical assistance, we'll reach out to OCD or go there ourselves and do it if nobody else will. Commissioner Quintmore.
Ms. O'Neill, I want to thank you for your forward thinking. I think this is a great opportunity for us to request a meeting from the regions to sit down and have some coordination meetings to see what other regions are doing. I know as parish presidents, we get together on a monthly basis to discuss those things. We've had through our organization with PACE and others, we've had our CAOs get together with other parishes to swap notes. So I think it would be extremely beneficial if we could get together as regions to discuss what each region is doing, because we're working in these silos, and we shouldn't be, but we are. And I think that we missed the boat on that coordination and communication with the other regions in order to see what we're all doing and, you know, the mistakes that some have made versus the achievement of others. I think it would be extremely beneficial to do that. So I want to thank you for bringing up that comment. And as we get our interim company and team lead in, I think that should be a priority in the coming months. Thank you.
Okay, is there any more comments or discussion on the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, Region 9? Coordinator updates and discussion. Any public comments? Any more public comments? Okay, moving right along, brings us to our Bayou Manchac project update. As you all recall, that the Pontchartrain Levee District, Ms. Gorman came and gave a presentation of the status, because we requested to kind of find out the status of the Bayou Manchac project. She came to our April meeting here this year, and it sounded like some drafts were in place, efforts were being made for permitting, and some funding assistance was being applied for. And the ARBC, and they welcomed and they were receptive of working together in cooperation to help tackle the project together, specifically because the PLD has broken up the project into phases, and the scope of the project is rather large, and it'll be expensive. At the meeting, though, the PLD reminded us that ARBC would need to get permission from PLD board before the ARBC could join in the project scope. So in consideration of, you know, Act 490, which brought us all together, the new ARBC board, the organization, the board makeup, the duties, the goals, the objectives, and also given the language, the specific language that's in that act, revised statute section 3306, which states, within the areas of the district that are concurrent with the limits of the PLD as set forth in RS 38:2291L, that the PLD shall have primary jurisdiction. The ARBC shall not initiate any project or program within the limits of the PLD without consulting with and receiving approval from the Board of Commissioners of PLD. So the ARBC Project Committee, made up of the parish presidents that are within the PLD's jurisdiction, traveled to the PLD office May 16th for their Finance Committee meeting, as suggested and agreed upon back in May. The meeting was at 6 o'clock p.m. We recognize the board members and the great work that they've all done. We gave an opening introduction of the ARBC, and we proceeded to give a heartfelt testimony for what the ARBC is trying to do. and for the citizens living within the Bayou Manchac watershed. We propose working together cooperatively to tackle the project together and allowing the ARBC to take on some of the phases of the project that the PLD had laid out and the cost. PLD didn't respond either way. ARBC asked if the PLD had funding to do all the entire project alone. PLD said they're working on getting the money from various state and federal sources. But there was no real agreement made. And so then the ARBC Project Committee attended PLD's regular board meeting. The subject come up on their agenda, and we were represented at the meeting by Commissioner Weber of St. James Parish. And I was going to get him to explain, but he wasn't here. But basically, at the meeting, it was mentioned, but there were no details and no discussion or plan of action. So this is the status of ARBC and the PLD with the Bayou Manchac project. As you know, recently, the ARBC received 4 reports on the Amite River and tributaries and Bayou Manchac project. So let me repeat that again. Amite River and tributaries Bayou Manchac project. Amazingly, these reports date back to over 30 years. The PLD has been involved with these studies since 2001, and again in 2008. And I looked up their progress report here, and it's 2014. It's mentioned about this project. 2001, 2014, and now here we are in 2024, looking at Bayou Manchac Watershed Flood Risk Reduction Project. So the LWI Region 9 received $100 million to do large transformative projects, and the ARBC project committee has decided to do the Bayou Manchac project as one of the projects, but this is where we are. And we went to their board. We asked for permission. There was no details, no discussion or plan of action. And that's as far as I know where we're at. And so I know the $100 million has to be obligated or we lose it. So anyway, that's the update on the Bayou Manchac project. Give y'all any discussion or comments?
Mr. Chairman? Yes.
President Lott.
I don't know, after that report you made, I don't know if anyone else has any comments to make, but I was wondering if the legal advisor could point us in a direction, because it seems like we had a stalemate and we need to move forward. Is there any alternatives that we can look at?
Well, I reached out, as a result of some of these conversations, I reached out to their legal advisor and asked that if he would come up with a formal proposal of either a memorandum of understanding or some agreement that would lay out responsibilities of both PLD and ARBC. He advised me last week that he is working on that document now. So hopefully we will have something. Now, what roles they are offering in reference to this, I haven't gotten any final, but Mr. President, we are working on that.
Thank you, sir.
Any more comments? Commissioner Quintmore?
Yeah, I mean, just to the public, it's frustrating, right? Because we got the money to do the project, and here we are with our hands tied behind our back while people flooded in 2016 and fear every time a rainstorm comes up, and here we are, ready to start a project and cannot do it. It's just the frustration, the bureaucracy. It's just, it's sad. I mean, what do you want to call it, right? We're ready to do a project. We got it fully funded. Can't do it. It's just, it's sad. That's all it is. That's the only way I can describe it. Thanks.
Any more comments? Commissioner Harris?
When we went to PLD, and it was, we were encouraged when the executive director met with the project committee. I was encouraged by the meeting. She said, yeah, you just need to come to our finance committee and make a formal request. Again, all we're asking for is permission, just so everybody understands. We've got the expertise, we've got the funds to go ahead and get started. I don't have any doubt from our discussions that we've had here, we'll have contracts in place by the end of the year if we can just get permission. And again, I'm the new kid on the block as far as politics involved. I'm not used to this, but we're ready to go. And there's no other, the thing that baffles me, there's no other agency. If Ascension or if East Baton Rouge came in or Iberville said, we're gonna come in and take what we're proposing is take from Wards Creek all the way out to the Amite River. If EBR came in and said, we're going to take this project and go with it, they can go. They can do it.
They don't have to ask for permission.
Nobody can stop us from moving forward with this project except the Pontchartrain Levee District. They couldn't stop any other parish or any other entity that wanted to do it. We are the only ones that they can stop, and it's just baffling to me. I just don't understand why we've got the expertise, we've got the people, and we got the money to finally get something done. And we got somebody saying, no, we're not giving you permission to do that. And hopefully that's what's coming with, from the attorney, because like I said, I was very encouraged by their Executive Director Gorman's attitude on, hey, we can work together on this, and that's what we're after. We'll take part and go with it. One of the things I'll bring up, one of the questions that they put forth, there did seem to be a little concern, wait a minute, this is in our jurisdiction, it's clear by the law, this is in our jurisdiction. Who are you to come in and say what part of the project you're gonna take? We'll engineer the whole thing out, and then we'll decide what part we wanna give you. But the part that we're talking about is actually a standalone. It doesn't make any sense for us to take our project and go work upstream whenever there's no funding in sight for doing the work downstream. So obviously, you can check with any plumber, you start at the bottom and work your way up. So the part of the project that we're looking at could really actually be a standalone from Wards Creek all the way out to the Amite River. So that's the part, and we already have the money and ready to go. So that's why we had explained to them, we're not trying to dictate to you what we want, or it just makes sense. Here's the place to start. And then whenever they got their money to do the other part of it, well, this part is already well underway, and they could get started immediately for the upstream portion. So it's pretty simple in my simple way of thinking. Thank you.
Yep, so Act 490 is as great as it is. It's what brought us together. It's the new ARBC, the regional approach like never before. However, we have a section in it that we didn't realize, that where a drainage district has to ask the levee district if they can do a drainage project. And the people want something done. But we thought that, we hope there's some middle ground. And we want to work together cooperatively and approach this as a unified front. I think there's power in numbers, and I don't see why there should be an objection for us to be able to do this. This project is going to be huge. The cost is going to be huge. Let's break it up. Let's get it going. Like I said, this has been going on since 2000. Do the math. How long ago was that? POD was the local sponsor all the way. So, anyway, let's move on. Any public comments or discussion? Okay. Next item is Comite River Diversion Canal Project. Mr. Bankston, can you give us an update on that, sir?
It's in your packet. The only portion of it that's probably not listed here is the status of the Florida gas, and maybe Mr. Marino can give any improvements in the status of Florida gas, because he's involved in negotiations in reference to that.
The main relocation of the pipeline, the 1.5 miles of it, they've gotten new bids, and they're in the process of getting new bids, Florida Gas is, so they can turn in a cost estimate for that. We're expecting that within a few weeks, is what we're told, assuming they can pull everything together. There are some other sections that are being worked on, White's Bayou, and we're expecting a cost estimate for the initial work on that shortly as well, so that can proceed. But it's the big dig, the big drill, that's obviously the main holdup here. And again, we hope to get a cost from them that we can then review and get approved by the Corps within the month, is what we're expecting.
There's also been some additional areas for real estate. They acquired all the parcels they need except 4, which are in what they call Brooks Lake, which is under appraisal right now. There is also some relocations that are going on. All the relocations except 15 of those relocations are complete. The bridge status, as you're aware, Highway 61 is complete. LA 964 is 71% complete. LA 67 is 62% complete. And the construction contract on 19 is underway, but I don't have a percentage number. In your packet, it also shows you the status of all the utility relocations that are going on, and there were some revisions that had to go on because of some changes in guidelines implemented by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that went into effect in 2022. Those were given over to the utility companies, and these additional design requirements are requiring some modifications in some of the relocations. But overall, the project is moving, but it's not moving quickly enough, and mainly because of Florida gas.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Just want to remind the commission that something we talked about last year that I think our former executive director was paying attention to for us was once all the critical components of that project get 50% completed or greater, we can start a process to give people some reduction in their flood insurance premiums. And so I don't know if I know that you're sitting in on the meetings, but I would love to ask the Corps specifically when they expect each of those critical features to be at 50% or greater, so that whether we have an interim program manager, whether we have a under contract program manager via RFP, or whether we have an executive director, that person can then be watching them and asking on a monthly basis, so that we're ready to start that process and give people a reduction of the cost of their home ownership, in terms of cheaper flood insurance prices.
As my understanding, that reaching that 50% requires reaching 50% on all the different elements, and the Florida gas is the fly in the ointment. Yeah. And until such time as that gets kind of underway, I don't think you're able to, but I will specifically reach out to DOTD as well as Corps of Engineers on that specific issue, as to put that on the agenda each month, that we get a percentage of where we think we are.
I'd love to get to that point where if it's just still Florida gas hanging out there, I'd love to then take that forward to FEMA or to the NFIP. A question not asked is an answer not received. To say, hey, look, we get this. This is beyond our control, but everything else here is done. Is there any way we can get some relief and get this process initiated?
I understand the 50%, but I don't understand exactly how you get the reductions. I know that's the rule, says you get the reductions, but you don't, there's not the first drop of rainwater that's flowing through that canal yet. So, you know, there's not the first bit of, not even the first part of it. You have White's Bayou, you have these three different bayous that lead into it in addition to the Comite. So there's no part of it that is providing any relief whatsoever, I guess, except what rainfall falls on Lily Bayou, and that's it.
So is it like a retention thing right now then?
It's just not, totally not operational.
Grabbing at straws.
So,
No, just kidding.
yeah.
Keeping it light.
Got you. I'll reach,
appreciate
Commissioner,
it.
I'll reach out and ask that specifically be dealt with.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. I appreciate it.
Any more comments, public comments on the Comite River Diversion Canal Project? Okay. Next item under new business is our people from Intercoastal Consultants. Yes, come forward, sir. We have a presentation by Intracoastal Consultants on the St. James West Shore Interconnector Levee Project.
Yes, thank you. I'm Kevin O'Gorman with Intracoastal Consultants. I'm a engineer working for St. James Parish. President Dufresne sends his regards. I was trying to make it to this meeting today, but also didn't want to really push it back any further than we've been trying to get this meeting scheduled with the commission since we met back with the former executive director in March. Mainly just to kind of give the commission an update and overview of what we're doing with this project and kind of how it fits in with the other ongoing activities in the Amite River Basin. So this is just a quick overview of the presentation. I'm going to go pretty quick, so I know we're at the end. A little bit on the background of the project. West Shore, most of you are familiar with or have seen as you're driving down I-10. You see the construction going on in St. John. They were appropriated $760 million for design, wetland mitigation, and construction. There's numerous reaches under construction that are either in construction or have been awarded a contract. There's also a piece of West Shore in St. James, and that's what we're here to talk about. In the original appropriation, they were allocated $45 million for levees and flap gates along LA 3125. Following Hurricane Ida, there was a supplemental appropriation of about $450 million to go towards the project due to the increased cost. And what that did was it provided some opportunities to look at some other alternatives in St. James. For people that may have seen the original feasibility study, there was an alignment that actually ran along I-10 and connected into the Marvin Borough levee system. They couldn't justify that from a cost-benefit standpoint at the time, so they proposed some smaller measures in St. James, which includes a couple of ring levees and some flap gates for backwater protection. So the reason that we need this and why it's important is because, you know, as these other flood protection systems come online, St. James is kind of left in the funnel at the downstream end of the Amite River Basin, and also, you know, subjected to storm surge from Lake Maurepas, Lake Pontchartrain area. So you can see kind of some of those impacts of the two particular ring levees in the middle there during the 2016 flood. So St. James Parish took the initiative to go after some funding to start to develop a more comprehensive, long-term sustainable solution for what they felt was needed on the East Bank. They submitted a capital outlay request. They got $18 million in funding in 2022, and this is the alignment based on from that application. includes, the objective of that was to connect the two authorized features of West Shore. So the next step St. James took was to initiate the H&H analysis and alternatives analysis to identify that alignment, the goals being to establish some without project or existing conditions and size all the pump stations and gravity structures that would be required for each alignment that was going to be considered. Also to review the environmental impacts, right-of-way acquisition, and come up with a total cost. I'm not going to go through all the alternatives, but I'm just going to kind of jump right to what we're recommending and what we're moving forward with. The three alignments that were looked at were the alignment along an existing power line alignment, the M2 canal, and an alignment along 3125. We are focused primarily on just connecting the two authorized features. So we really were focused at looking at the portion between the two ridges of Grand Point and Gramercy and tying into those core features as part of West Shore. So that was what our study really focused on. We identified what we called these common segments that would be included in West Shore on either leg of each ring levee. So that's kind of the basis of comparison for the alternative study. There's additional features outside of that middle portion that would be part of West Shore for St. James that are being evaluated by the Corps, but our focus again was between the two common beginning and ending points. The M2 canal alignment, which is what's shown here in red, is what we are recommending. It follows an existing canal and spoil bank. It kind of mimics the existing drainage pattern. A lot of the lateral drainage features that come from the Mississippi River towards the swamp area all kind of collect in here. It acts somewhat like a manifold. So we're trying to mimic that existing condition. It requires a couple of pump stations and environmental water control structures. We developed an H&H model to establish what the existing conditions are. Took the same approach for what the Army Corps of Engineers did in St. John. So we had the basis for what they used to size the structures there and applied it here. Identified points throughout the basin to compare the alternatives against each other and making sure that they were achieving the objectives at each location. And so the results of that analysis, we developed size structures for two conditions. One, for a non-surge event where most of the time we want this system to gravity drain through a series of sluice gates that are operated. These are adjacent to the proposed pump stations. And then when we need to shut the gates for surge conditions or extended high river, we would be pumping the water out from two locations. So the project features include 3.5 miles of levee that will be constructed to approximately 7.5 elevation. Embankment for the first lift, approximately 1,000 CFS between the two pumping stations, 2 drainage structures, and 3 environmental water control structures. We've developed a total cost for all of these features, but we're starting to just work on the first phase. The proposed phasing breakdown that we have, the first phase would be constructing the embankment and access. That's funded through capital outlay program. We have $3.65 million in priority one. The local match is being provided using St. James's local Go Mesa dollars that have been bonded out. We've got some additional funding, the IGA process with CPRA to do the full core requirements for the geotechnical investigation that'll supplement some funding for that. And then as well as using some funding that's been put into the annual plan through CPRA for the water control structures. So the objective would be get the embankment, the right-of-way, the mitigation kind of out of the way, leave the two gaps for the larger structures that are going to be required, similar to how St. John is being implemented, where they're building a lot of the levee segments first and then coming back with the pump stations and drainage structures, which are about to go to bid. And then there's two phases, that we're anticipating, which is where the big costs come in with the pump stations and drainage structures on the order of magnitude of $25 and $50 million. This is a timeline of kind of, where we're at, where we've been and where we're currently at. We had our pre-application meeting on the levee with the Corps of Engineers to start the permitting process. We are going to be submitting the permit application later this month. We've started doing some surveying, awaiting our permit to do the geotechnical borings, and currently under design for 15%. I'm trying to start construction first quarter of 2026. And the reason that we wanted to come was, and I've heard President Quintmall mention at some of the past meetings about, having some funding allocated for St. James. And this is kind of what we just wanted to give the board like an update of where we were at and where some of that funding could potentially fit in on this particular project. So tried to keep it quick, but that's about it. Any comments or questions?
You come, Commissioner DeLutte.
Guys, y'all bear with me. As noted before, I'm the new guy on the board, so I'm not very familiar with how Amite River Basin has something to do with St. James Parish. We keep talking about the levees, that is tidewater, like you mentioned earlier. Livingston Parish faces the same problem St. James does, Ascension on the bottom end with tidewater. My concern is when I look at the drawings, it seems like the levees are being built in such a way that it funnels more water through the McElroy Swamp towards Livingston and even towards Ascension. I can see that. My issue or my question is, are there any requirements that there won't be any adverse impacts to other parishes on your project?
Well, I think that's a similar question on a lot of these projects, which I think there's a lot of great projects that the commission and the other parishes are trying to undertake is, as we try to get more water out of Ascension and Baton Rouge and Livingston, where does it all go, and making sure that there isn't anything that's adversely impacted downstream. I mean, what you saw on the pictures of the flooding, I mean, that's all riverine flooding in St. James. 2016, that's riverine flooding. So it's seeing, similar effects from.
I just didn't see the levee keeping you from flooding. How does that levee keep you from flooding from 2016? Is what I'm asking, because you got floodgates. You're showing the gates, letting the water go out. I see the levee being constructed in such a way that you are trying to combat tidewater, and I understand that because I have that same issue. I want to understand if it's going to put any more flooding on me. By the way, the shape of the levee is funneling the water. It's all I'm asking.
So without, certainly looking at it in close detail, but I do think it would be the same type of assessment that you would go through for any of these other projects.
Well, I'm only asking about this project.
Sure.
I'm only asking about this project. I want to know if I'm going to be in favor of this project or not.
And I think we can provide some specifics as far as what you're concerned about, but it is going to, like this particular project, combined with what the Army Corps of Engineers is doing, would prevent flooding from 2016, from riverine flooding.
So if I had $100 million, $150 million is about what you showed, but if I had $150 million to construct a levee around, then we'd have a contest of who can build a levee the highest. So let me ask you the next question. Where are you going to pump from the levee? Once you get your levee built, where are you pumping to?
So
You said 2 locations, but you didn't identify them.
So the pumping would be directly out of the existing drainage canal. There's a canal that runs along that alignment that's proposed, and so the water would be pumped out of that into what we call the L4 canal that would ultimately make its way to Blind River.
Wouldn't it be closer to pump to the Mississippi?
Not at this location.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Quintmall.
Yeah. So, let's see, where do I start? I'm gonna go way back. All right, so, you know, and unfortunately, President Delat wasn't with us as we met as a commission back in the early days, and he is coming in. So, we talked about the regional impact on the lower end, and so we wanted to ensure that every parish received some protection, right? And so we came up with the various projects, the four really qualified is the pump to the Mississippi River and Ascension, Man Shack, Treleaves, the three parishes of Riverville, East Baton Rouge, and Ascension, and then the lower Amite, that was important for Livingston. That was kind of always been their project, and of course St. James, which was kind of left out of round two, unfortunately, and nobody can really say why, right? It was all kind of baffled all of us, and that's why I've always supported dedicating this portion of money to St. James, because y'all deserve equal protection like the rest of us, and there's no doubt about that, and that's kind of what this commission is forced to look at, right? As we do these other projects, that offset for St. James is to provide y'all protection at the end of the funnel. And I'm still supportive of that and will always be supportive of that. And so I've always discussed the situation with the northern parishes to Lake Marpole, that they don't have levee protection. And it's no doubt that as you levee off the entire southern border, right, that is an impact. There's no doubt about it. But again, you deserve the protection. It's not like you don't. Like if we have to choose, well, we don't choose to protect anybody then. We'll just take them all down and not protect anybody. And that doesn't equally make any sense either, right? So again, we do appreciate you coming here and make the presentation. I certainly do. And I certainly support your ability to protect yourself. And I think as a commission and a board, we need to understand the relation with each of the parishes and make sure that, you know, for Livingston, the lower Amite is a priority for us, just as this protection for St. James is for St. James as a whole. This is the unique ability for us to all work together. This is what this board is brought together to do. And so we want to make sure we're mindful of that. And so I just wanted to stress that, because it is important that every parish does receive some protection or some project to provide flood relief. And that's obviously what we discussed in the early days of this commission within the first 6 months of, hey, where are we going? What are we going to do? And how are we going to look at this as a regional aspect? And so I just wanted to make sure we relayed those comments again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lott.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments being made so far, guys. But if we talking about protection, there's nobody in no parish that suffered more than Livingston Parish. 163,000 people suffered. 73% of the parish flooded. We talk about protection. There's no protection for Livingston Parish. Amite River runs straight through it. We haven't built any levees. We haven't got any permits for anything. I just want to make sure. I was in favor, and still am, of the Man Shack. Okay, that doesn't do anything for Livingston Parish. I'm still in favor of Clint's project. I still can be in favor of your project. The question I'm asking is the adverse impacts that you give to my parish, okay? I'm the guy that's playing the team ball. I just want assurance that we're not getting any worse off, because so far I hadn't got any protection for our parish. And that's what I'm fighting for, Livingston Parish. I want to make sure that we work as a team continually. But to do that, I can't take everybody's water. I can't take Man Shack's water without a way to get it off of me. I can't let you funnel the tide water on me without me setting up some levees and pumps too, if that's what it's going to take. But I feel like we can work this thing together and everybody's project can go forward. I just ask a simple question, what the adverse impact is on the south wind or east wind, that's all.
I agree, and I appreciate your comments, and I mean, that was part of wanting to come here, and the parish's emphasis to do it was to let you know what we are trying to accomplish, because I don't know that that's been, presented, to the entire board at this point, so.
Thank you, and I do appreciate you coming and making your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank President Dufresne and Rick Webb. Sorry we couldn't be here today, but we appreciate your time, and it gave us a better understanding of what's going on.
Thank you.
This project, it wasn't conceived yesterday. This project has been on the books a long time, way before the ARBC, way before politics realized that water didn't know no political boundaries. Politics didn't realize that. I played a part in that with Eberville and between East Baton Rouge with our former administration. Also, too, look at East Baton Rouge Flood Risk Reduction Project, what it's going to do for Ward's Creek, Bayou Fountain. It's going to bring water down from Baton Rouge into Bayou Manchac quicker than ever before. Might make an existing problem worse. But, with all due respect, that project was on the books back in 1984. 84. That's when the Corps initiated this, and it just got passed. So, hats off to those people. But now we're working together. Randy, I appreciate your spirit of cooperation. And yeah, this Bayou Manchac probably will put more water down there on you. But you know what? As it's going forward, we are feverishly looking at the lower Amite River to get that plug out to give this some relief as all these upstream projects start getting implemented. So yeah, that's not without consideration.
I recognize the fact that this board has made that a priority and has worked hard to make this go forward, and I appreciate that, and thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any more public discussion? Any general comments, non-agenda items, public comments? All right. Before we go off record here, I would like to thank the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality for coming and taking their time and showing up here. And just because I'm recognizing them, I encourage everybody after the meeting to go over there. If you got to go, you got to go. But if you can stay, encourage you to stay, and we'll do some little simulations, hands-on simulations, something you might have seen before. If you haven't, I encourage it.
Leave that up real quick. Whoever's handling electronic media.
Yes, perfect. We're in Ascension. So.
What about the cows?
So anyway, thanks to DEQ, thanks to the outreach program with DEQ, the watershed planning, Amy Priu, some names, John Gross, Amanda Marsh. Thank y'all. So I do have a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Motion by Commissioner O'Neill, second by Commissioner Harris. Thank you.